I just came up with I like making parallels and I like making what we call analogies that apply one to one, right? That are valid to try to simplify a topic. You know what I just thought about? The topic of violence, right? If I show you a clip of UFC, right, which is people sign a waiver, they voluntarily go to fights, right? Right? That's one thing, right? That's about as consensual as it gets to fighting. And then a video of some guy who does like an assault, like it would punch me in the fucking face in real life, right? Who comes by and is just knocked him to the fire, bang, right? I think if I show you the clip of the UFC, right, you'll have a certain reaction, and if I show you a clip of a punch and assault, you have a very different reaction, right? And I think even though this is the topic of violence, it's still violent in both ends. The reaction to these things will be severely different from one end to the other. Even though it's extreme, the two ends are very extreme. I still think there's value to present the argument that there are degrees of reaction based on what is happening. And I think you laughing at Kid making a sponsor and you saying, "What the fuck? International show porn," doesn't show hypocrisy. I don't think that's hypocrisy. And I think
I appreciate that. Yeah.
no problem.
I'm hoping after this conversation she will also see it that way, because I don't see the other side of the coin. I get Fansly itself has problems where if you do sign up, like it doesn't actually verify you're 18. Like apparently you can just sign up with Twitch and it doesn't check if you're 18. It takes Twitch's word. That's a problem. And that's of course information I didn't have at the time, but even still, there is a very different degree of severity between pulling up Pornhub versus pulling up the Fansly advertisement. So even still, again, the whole thing was just tackling the hypocrisy statement.
Yeah. Chances I don't validate chances.
They're both bad. One's worse, which is why I talked about it first.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just chances I'm fooling, but the reality is that both my gotchas are like on semantics. Even though I still think that there's value to the gotchas, your argument is always back to your video title, which is good. It's good that you did that as a debater or a talker. You go back to the hypocrisy of it, right? That's the topic, right? And you are right. I don't believe you're hypocritical. It was more like getting sidetracked on small semantics rather than big topics. I agree with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like again, it is a legitimately nuanced topic that you can have a lot of branching conversations about for sure. But that wasn't the point of the video. It was to tackle just one topic in particular. But yeah, I totally see what you're talking about on other things for sure. I'll be honest, once you started bringing in like thumbprint retina scanner stuff, you kind of had me wondering what was being whipped up in the kitchen back there by the chef. But overall, I think I understand where you're trying to go with a lot of like the branching paths to the conversation.
You know why I said
There's nothing wrong with that.
You know why I said that? I said thumbprint because it is the last amount of barrier you can have, because it's called the 3-rule life. It's life on 3 rules. FA 1, 2, 3. Always remember this, Charlie. Something that you know, something that you have, something that you are. The reason why I brought up the argument of thumbprint is it is the last line of defense behind who we are as people in terms of security like that. It is something that you are. An adult. And the adult has its thumb and it'll press it. Otherwise, the children can get access easily to something that you know, a password, something that you have, a computer or a device, but they don't have access to something that you are, the parent's thumb. Boom. Thoughts?
There was a lot in there. Overall, I think I understand the bigger point that you were aiming at. And, you know, I like the passion behind it, and I do think I agree. I hope I understood you correctly.
That's right.
I hope. There's just a lot in there that was going on. It got very almost Socrates for a moment with the what you are kind of stuff.
Well,
but I think
you know you don't get that? It's FA. It's FA. 3 is the maximum. 3. It's a video by Tom Scott. Factor authentication, right?
Yep.
Has a maximum of 3. It's a triangle. Something that you know. A password, right? A password, a name, a code word. something that you have, like an authenticator device, so you play it in your computer, a physical object, but also something that you are. So your thumbprint, your eyes, your DNA, your
Right.
see, and the third one is the strongest by far, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it is.
Absolutely.
It is the 3FA.
3FA, baby.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I'm out, bro.
All right, man. Good conversation. Have a good stream.
That's right. You too, man. Chat, you get it? Yeah, chat? You get it, chat? Guys, the thing is, okay, is that I didn't know. I respect the hustle. Charlie cared a lot about not looking like a hypocrite. Nobody wants to look like a hypocrite. He cared a lot about hypocrisy. So he kept reeling back towards not being a hypocrite. Because I wasn't going to devalidate his feeling about not being a hypocrite because I don't think he is. Okay? Based on the fact that I don't agree on the semantics. I still don't agree with the semantics presented in the. But does that mean I'm going to go against him in a big debate about this shit? Not really. It's very opinionated. I don't think it's going to use it. I just thought that he would want to talk about semantics, but he didn't want to. Fair enough. I don't think he wanted to speak about the base of the semantics. Because I think bringing Twitch up to the same level as like only Fansly is bad because Fansly doesn't allow Twitch doesn't allow nudity in the ways that Fansly does. That's all. Fair enough. It's partial nudity, which we agree it's better good, but I mean I'm a big boobo guy, so I mean I see titties, I go.
34 months of fat sniffer. 29 months Pagman.
I think making people look like hypocrites is an easy job. It's a little bit like misinformation. It's easy to cause damage and it's hard to undo it. I think the video made isn't that bad from her. It's okay.
Any pot friends in chat?
I don't think it makes it go like hypocrites, you know? Like I don't know. It's kind of odd. I still don't agree though, guys, because she said that other people are hypocrites, right? Because they promote something that's consensual nudity and sexual work compared to non-consensual, when that is just that's not cool. I'm like, that's just not cool. If somebody wants to be fucking naked and post pictures themselves, they're allowed to. They give it consent. If somebody has pictures of them taken and modified to make them naked with AI or shit, that's different. It's different.
You write like a homie with a chromie.
It's not the same thing.
We have some deadly gladiators off pieces, that being cloak, bracers, neck, and ring, despite talent providing you with exponential value. After putting in your talents, the next step in setting up your character is going to be picking your glyphs. Glyphs are separated into two categories, those being major and minor, in which we can have 3 of each. Starting off with major glyphs, the first one to get your hands on is the glyph of inner fire. What this does is massively increase the armor provided by your inner fire by a whopping 50%, making it a must-have against any melee damage dealer. To go with that, you're then going to want Glyph of Dispersion. This is another must-have glyph, and while not that interesting, what this does is cut 45 seconds off your dispersion cooldown, taking it from a 2-minute cooldown to 75 seconds, a must-have for both survivability and mana. Our third major glyph slot is open to customization, and what you want to pick can depend heavily on your composition or even arena bracket. For double DPS, 2v2, or just any situation where you're not playing with a dedicated healer, we suggest Glyph of Power Word Shield. This adds an extra healing to your Power Word Shield, which is great for that added bit of sustain and survivability. Alternatively, if you're playing with a healer or just want a more aggressive option, then look no further than Glyph of Mind Flay. This just buffs the damage of Flay by 10% whenever you have pain on the target, which should always be the case. For a third option in those situations where you're again playing with a healer, we have Glyph of Fade. Fade for Shadow Priest, if you didn't know, is our key mobility tool, providing us with a freedom effect when used thanks to the talent Improved Shadow Form. This glyph though will just reduce the cooldown of Fade by 9 seconds, making it great for matchups or compositions where you greatly value mobility over all else. Now for minor glyphs, these are by no means as important as major glyphs but still provide decent benefits. One of them being Glyph of Fortitude. This heavily reduces the mana cost of your Power Word Fortitude buff. Although it's not common that you rebuff inside of Arena, there are some situations where you may reset and end up wanting to rebuff with Fortitude, and for those situations you'll be kicking yourself if you don't have this glyph. Another must-have minor glyph is the Glyph of Fading. What this does is passively reduces the mana cost of Fade by 30%, and like we covered, Fade is a button we're regularly using for the added mobility it provides. And as mana management is such an integral part of Shadow Priests inside of Arena, anything to help with this, no matter how small, is of great benefit. Then to round out our glyphs, the third and final minor that you'll want to pick up is Glyph of Shackle Undead. Shackle Undead is key when coming up against Unholy Death Knights, primarily for their Summon Gargoyle ability. This just adds 5 extra yards of range to your Shackle spell, so being in range to cast this sooner can surprisingly make all the difference considering just how strong of a cooldown Gargoyle actually is. Next up, we're going to be covering gear, but before we do, if you want to see the rest of our Shadow Priest series, it is available. Okay, so now we're at that point in the video where we get into the hot topic of gear. To do this, we'll be providing you with 2 separate gear sets, one of which being complete best in slot gear, which consists of a mixture of raid and arena point gear reliant on weekly lockouts and caps, so gives you something to aim for long term. The other one being a set composed of easily farmable gear from a mixture of honors, heroics, rep, or even gold, none of which is locked behind weekly resets or arena points. We'll break down both of these gear sets shortly. But first, let's discuss stat priority, as even if you get a piece of gear that isn't on this list, you can easily use this as reference to see how that item shapes up in comparison. First of all is hit rating. Now this is a topic that people have varying opinions on. Some say 2% is fine, others say 5%, both are playable. Although we suggest aiming for 5%, this does put us way over the hit cap in conjunction with our talents. But with that in mind, this allows us to reach a level of hit where we don't have to worry about talents like Divine Purpose from Paladins and Heightened Senses from Rogues, and potentially missing a Psychic Horror or a Psychic Scream at the wrong time on one of these classes will be far more impactful than the small amount of additional stats we would be gaining otherwise. After hit, you'll then want to reach the spell pen cap. This for Shadow is 130, as this allows you to play around the increased resistance of both Priests and Paladins, 2 very popular classes that you'll constantly be meeting inside of Arena. Once these caps are met, you'll then want to be prioritizing Resilience for the added survivability, followed by Spell Power, and then Spirit, followed by Mana per 5. Leaving our complete stat priority looking like what you see on screen now. The lack of priority on haste may come as a surprise, but in early seasons, haste just isn't that effective and will just end up causing you then want to reach the spell pen cap, or talents. But with that in mind, this allows you to scream at the wrong. Shadow is 130, as this allows you to play around the increased resistance of both Priests and Paladins, 2 very popular classes that you'll constantly be meeting inside of Arena. Once these caps are met, you'll then want to be prioritizing Resilience for the added survivability, followed by Spell Power, and then Spirit, followed by Mana per 5. Leaving our complete stat priority looking like what you see on screen now. The lack of priority on haste may come as a surprise, but in early seasons, haste just isn't that effective and will just end up causing you to have increased mana issues. Alright, so back to the gear sets, starting with our Prebis list. This most notably consists of the 4-piece Savage Gladiators Mooncloth set. We want to prioritize Mooncloth over Satin for the superior stats allocation. This can all be farmed freely from Battlegrounds or Winter Grasp, as the only requirement is Honor. Also coming from Honor, we have some Deadly Gladiators off pieces, that being Cloak, Bracers, Neck, and Ring. Despite being deadly gear, all these off pieces require no arena points. We suggest prioritizing buying these first as they are also included inside of our BIS list. The observant among you may notice that we also have a Hateful Gladiator's Ring and Hateful Gladiator's Belt. In regards to the ring, it's a good filler piece until you get something better. In terms of the belt though, we haven't suggested the Deadly Gladiators alternative as it has a rating requirement of 1300. If you're able to reach this, then you should save your honor and purchase that instead. For both boots and helm, you'll want to be picking up the Titan Forged Hood of Salvation and Titan Forged Slippers of Dominance. Both of these are obtained from Winter Grasp marks. With the boots, much like we covered with belt, if you're able to reach 1400 rating, you can skip these and instantly go for the deadly alternative. You'll then want to jump into some 5-man heroic dungeon content and grab the Wand of Cerdis from Gundrak and the Pendulum of Telluric Currents from the Oculus, and while doing so, farm enough emblems of heroism to purchase Ward of the Violet Citadel for your offhand. Non-human players can drop the Pendulum of Telluric Currents in order to obtain the Medallion of the Horde or Medallion of the Alliance. And for your other trinket slot, we suggest forking over the cash to purchase a Dark Moon card Death, as this will be your best in slot trinket for Season 5. Then lastly, for weapon, the best is the Titan Steel Guardian purchased from the auction house. But if you don't have the money for this, then the Nether Breath Spell Blade is a farmable option. Okay, so moving on to the full best in slot list now. To start, you'll notice the majority of this consists of the Deadly Gladiators set. We'll be aiming to pick up all 5 pieces of Mooncloth. Again, this is all from arena points. With the Deadly Neck, Bracers, and Cloak coming from Honor, and like we mentioned, replacing the Prebis Hateful Belt and Winter Grasp Boots with the Deadly Treads and Court of Salvation. Our offhand and wand are the Deadly Gladiator pieces, and both again obtainable from arena points. Then for trinkets, exactly the same as the Prebis list, we've got Dark Moon Card Death and Pendulum of Telluric Currents. If you're not human, just replace the pendulum with a standard medallion. 2 very strong PvE pieces you should aim to pick up are the Torch of Holy Fire from Naxxramas 25 and the Sigment of the Malevolent from the 10-man version. We'll also include links to both these gear sets in the description below the video. Next up, we have Professions, which are quite important assets inside Wrath of the Lich King. For this, we highly suggest picking up 2 professions specifically, being Jewel Crafting and Engineering. Jewel Crafting gives you the highest overall stat boost compared to any single other profession in the game. The reason for this being that you gain access to 3 improved Jewel Crafting gems, which can be used to gain extra resilience or spell pen, or even hit rating, depending on what you need. As standard epic gems are not available until Season 7, these Jewel Crafting gems provide a considerable bonus over the rare quality alternative, as you can see on screen. Equally as important is our second profession of Engineering. The reason? The hand-mounted Pyro Rocket. This is an enchant you're able to put on your gloves and utilize exclusively as an engineer. You can then use your gloves and will fire a rocket at the target, dealing between 2,000 to 3,000 damage. This is not only instant, but also off the global cooldown, meaning you can combine it with other abilities for some unexpected burst damage. This is something you'll want to be using for the entirety of Wrath, but it's especially good in Season 5 due to the fact the damage doesn't scale. So as a result, it's obviously going to be the strongest in the early seasons where players' health pools are at their lowest. Finally, to round out this video and to finalize setting your character, we've got macros. As Shadow Priest revolves heavily around both crowd control and utility, you're going to need quite a few macros for optimal play. A large majority of those are dependent on how you choose to interact with your party members. How you approach this is entirely personal preference, but regardless on which approach you take, you'll need macros for all of your important utility. We also highly advise against using mouse over macros for this in PvP. The abilities you will want macros for are primarily Power Word Shield and Dispel Magic. If you find for some reason you have free binds or even have 2 keyboards, you can also look to fit in macros for Flash Heal, Renew, and Prayer of Mending, but these 3 are by no means necessary. The first way to do this is via party macros, so having macros like what's on screen now. When using this type of macro, you'll have to pay constant attention to your party frames, as which slot your allies in can change on a game-by-game basis. Party 1 will always be at the top, and then Party 2 will be the second member of your group, regardless of your own position on your frames. The other route you can take with this is by inserting the player's name. This keeps your binds consistent, but requires you to update your macros every time you play with a new person. To do this, you just put replace player name with the name of your teammate's character. You'll of course need 2 of each macro if you're playing 3v3. And the final route you can take to interact with your teammates is by just having macros to target Party 1 and Party 2, and then having standard binds for each of your utility spells. This route, while definitely saving a lot of binds, is by far the least optimal, as in when taking this route, you're going to have to deselect your target, so having to press 1 bind to target your team member, another to dispel them, and then another to get back to your target is added button presses, and as you can imagine, suboptimal. You'll then also want some way to easily use your crowd control on your opponents. This again can be done in one of 2 ways, either by taking the focus route, which you can see on screen now, which will just allow you to use your crowd control on the player you currently have set to your focus, so you will want this for Silence and Psychic Horror. And then the other way to do this is more bind heavy, but slightly more optimal, and that's with Arena 1-2-3 macros. Using these means you can interact with all 3 opposing members of the enemy team regardless of whom you have on focus or targeted. Something you will definitely want is some additional Dispel magic binds. We have the ones for your teammates, but you will also want a separate bind for yourself. This is important as it will enable you to dispel magic debuffs off yourself even when targeting somebody else. Additionally, having a focused Dispel magic is crucial for enabling you to quickly dispel buffs regardless of who you have targeted at the time. On top of that, it's very handy to have an easy way to apply your damage over time effects to your focus target. This can make getting up dots a lot easier. For some more specific macros, you'll also be wanting some way to easily cancel Dispersion and Mind Control, which we recommend putting in Mind Flay or even Mind Blast. Much easier than accidentally clicking off your buffs when trying to leave Dispersion. And lastly, this all-in-one pet macro is perfect for your Shadow Fiend. What this does is put it on passive as soon as it's out, which fixes the wonky pet AI, and then pressing the same button a second time will redirect your Fiend to a new target if you want to swap targets. Alright guys, that about wraps up this video. Hopefully this provides you with all the information you need to get started. If you've watched this video up until this point, take a second to head down to comments and let us know how you're enjoying Wrath of the Lich King thus far. And of course, check out Skill Capped. We are the only service that dares to literally guarantee you'll climb at least 400 rating while actively using our service. And if you don't pay. Simple as that. As always though, we want to thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Next up, we've got talents. With 3 different talent trees and 71 individual talent points, deciding where to put them can be incredibly overwhelming, so let's make it easy. What you see on screen now is widely regarded as the most optimal talent build for the majority of situations. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're just going to blindly copy this talent tree without even a second thought. Well, it's one thing having an optimal spec, but it's even better if you know why you're selecting certain talents. So what we're going to do now is break down and dissect those talents that we deem are worth knowing about. To start, we have to talk about Shadow Focus. This talent increases your hit rating with shadow spells by 1% per point, alongside also reducing the mana cost of your shadow spells by 2% per point. Hit rating is by far one of the most crucial stats when it comes to PvP, with all casters requiring to reach 4% in order to reach the cap. As we're getting 3% hit rating for all of our shadow spells from this one singular talent, it makes reaching that cap trivial and only requires 2% from gear, allowing us far more freedom in terms of gear selection and stat priority. Even if you're overly capped on hit though, this talent still remains worthwhile even just for the mana cost reduction on your spells. Taking a quick jump down the bottom of the shadow tree, the next talent worth discussing is Misery. This, at max rank, causes your Pain, Mind Flay, and Vampiric Touch to apply a debuff to the target, of which increases the chance for all spells to hit by 3%, alongside increasing the spell power ratios of your Mind Blast and Mind Flay. While the spell power increase is obviously fantastic, what's notable here is the added hit percent. This, unlike Shadow Focus, affects all spells, most important of all being Dispel Magic. One talent you might read over and wonder why we're not selecting in this build is Improved Mind Blast. This talent reduces the cooldown of Mind Blast while also attaching a 20% healing reduction to it. In theory, this looks great, but in practice, Shadow Priests primarily tend to play with specs that provide a healing reduction themselves, most notably being mages with their Permafrost, rogues with Wound Poison, and even warriors with Mortal Strike. And putting 5 points into this for the sole purpose of getting 2.5 seconds off Mind Blast, which is already only an 8-second cooldown, just not worth it inside of an arena setting. Even in the case that you are playing with a class that doesn't bring a healing reduction, picking up this talent is still in most cases not going to be worth it at the cost of 5 talent points. A talent definitely worth every single point though is Twisted Faith. What this does is passively increase your spell power based off your total spirit, which together with meditation in the discipline tree makes spirit a very desirable stat both for combating mana issues as well as providing you with extra damage. On top of that, Twisted Faith will also increase the damage of both your Mind Blast and Mind Flay by 10%, assuming you have Shadow Word Pain on the target. Great for giving you that added single target pressure. Another very impactful talent is Pain and Suffering. This will cause your Mind Flay when cast on the target with Shadow Word Pain active on them to fully refresh the duration. This only requires you to a single tick of Mind Flay to refresh the Shadow Word Pain, not the full channel. To put how strong this is into perspective, you need to understand how mana is a huge issue for Shadow inside of Arena, and every little bit counts. With that in mind, Shadow Word Pain is always maintained on your target and costs around 700 mana. Mind Flay, however, costs under half of that at about 300 mana. Meaning with this talent, you can not only refresh your dots, saving a huge amount of mana in the process, but also do some decent damage. Then we've got all the must-have abilities that you're picking up from the Shadow Tree. So, crowd control like Silence and Psychic Horror, which are crucial for setting up kills, Shadow Form for the increased damage done and reduced damage taken, as well as the added benefits it provides to your damage over time effects, Vampiric Touch for the added damage, mana, and most importantly, Dispel protection, and then Dispersion for the added survivability and mana gain. Then last but not least, moving over to the Discipline tree, we've got the must-have talent and probably one of the strongest talents overall, Unbreakable Will. What this does is passively reduce the effects of stuns, fears, and silences by 30%. And with classes like Warlocks and Rogues running rampant in PvP and almost all specs having some variation of stun, fear, or silence, just results in this talent providing you with exponential value. After putting in your talents, the next step in setting up your character is going to be picking your glyphs. Glyphs are separated into two.
The three wise men. You know what I mean? Like, we're
Yeah,
part
but
of the
there's
Bible,
the
we
thing
see our
is,
forefathers.
you have a sort of out of sort of unchecked, vaguely unhinged animosity when you talk about me. So I knew that it was
I did
me
that
that
day.
yeah, I know. So I knew that it was you, that was me that you were hating when you said that, not Jews. But I think that
Yeah.
right. So, but somebody who didn't understand that might think that you were mad because I'm a Jew. But I understood you were just sort of, blurting things out, and you were like mad. You were mad at me.
Yeah, I was upset with the intellectual dishonesty I felt like you offered me during our combo, but that's my fault. Or not. I could have engaged differently. I thought this is so.
It's your
can I
fault
tell
for
you something
thinking,
embarrassing?
for expecting more from me than you could.
Well, I'm
reasonably
embarrassed
expect.
because I did think we were having like 6 meta conversations and I was having fun, and then I realized, oh, I don't think we are, and I feel stupid because I think we're having a different conversation than we're having.
You feel stupid
then
for
I
thinking I was smart.
No, I felt stupid for thinking we spoke the same language. So that was my
thinking
bad. So
It
now
sounds
we
like-
can have this. Now we can communicate to
It
have. the
feels
same
like you're
language.
calling me stupid.
I think we have different language. Don't
You think your
that's
language is
accurate?
better and smarter than mine.
I think you think that's what I think, but I think I do
think that's what you think.
I
I think that's what you're saying. You're saying I expected more of you, Max.
I did expect something. I don't like the idea. I was disappointed, but I don't
It's
like
so
the
heartbreaking
idea of
to
putting
know
you
that you're
down.
calling me stupid, but just admit
No.
that you're calling me stupid. I disappointed you. You thought I was smart, and then you realized I'm not as smart
You know, this is what
with it.
frustrates me, because I think you are smart. Listen to the way you're talking to me now, right? Like,
Yeah.
you are purposely, like, I've seen your work. I like your work. I just don't understand how someone can create that work and then have these kinds of conversations.
In a dazzling show of confrontational empathy, I am both making fun of myself for calling you out and yet also actually calling you out for calling me stupid and giving you a graceful way to respond to it all at the same time.
You're a 5, bro. That's it. It's official.
That's what they say.
I believe it. Do you think I'm smart or do you think I'm stupid?
I think you're smart. I told you what I think of you. I think you're smart, but I think you're a little crazy.
Based.
You know what? Ditto. Literally ditto. That's why I'm so frustrated by you, because I think you are smart, but I also think you're kind of crazy.
I don't think I'm that crazy.
I don't think I'm that crazy. I don't understand why people think I'm that crazy, except people think I believe in things I don't, like magic and like otherworldly things and parallel universes. Like, I don't believe in any of that stuff. So I think that's kind of funny. Like, actually, who was the guy you guys were talking? Glink? Glink is more woo-woo than I can handle. I'm like, he's so woo-woo, bro. And then people are like, Brittany, aren't you as woo-woo? I'm like, no. Nothing I talk about has anything to do with magic or like, you know what I mean? But I liked his enthusiasm.
Okay, you said I don't have any values.
Yes, I think you might not, because you're kind of a contrarian. Like, even when you talk
Well, I'm
to
just
Glink,
trying to.
Yeah.
I know you were angry.
Yes, and also, forgive me,
Do you
I was very sick. I went to the doctors. It got sorted. So
Okay.
that was that. I was really tired. That was my bad. So I was upset, but it wasn't I wasn't angry at you. I was literally angry at my body for
You had
failing
a
me.
case of Mr. Girl derangement syndrome. the doctors were able to clear that up, and I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, let's call it
Is your
that.
current stance? Is your current stance? I don't have any values, or I might not have any values, or you don't think I have any values? Just for
My
clarification.
belief is that you don't have any values, but I'm open to being proven wrong. I don't see the
Yeah.
consistency I thought I would see in your speech patterns. Like even today with Glink, I didn't understand why you kept saying certain things, and I was like, "Where's the consistency?" But maybe I'm wrong in thinking there should be a certain flavor of consistency. Maybe that's where I'm going wrong in my thinking.
Are we using values as a synonym for beliefs or morals? Or both?
More like morals, more or less than beliefs, because you have a belief that contradicts the value you have, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I just want to know, like, what do you believe is right or wrong, and how do you consistently show that in your life? And then what can I depend like I don't really feel like you're consistent enough for me to feel like I can depend on Max's reaction. So like what is it like what beliefs do you hold or values do you not beliefs values do you hold that are like these are I'm going to be honorable in relation to these values. So I can like Max will always do this. Or Max definitely won't do this.
If he's sticking to his values, I don't know that I
Yes.
always adhere to my own values. Maybe I think I was saying.
Okay, fair.
Okay.
So I just look for consistency in people. So are you saying that because you don't always adhere to your own values that I shouldn't assume you
No,
can
no.
be
I think I
Oh.
think I'm pretty consistent. I think I usually
Cool.
adhere to my values. I try to. I'm not always. I think I can usually admit when I haven't.
Mhm.
Or try to. But
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. So are there any specific values you want to
Ich muss näher ran.
probe or compare
Yeah.
yours to
You know,
mine?
I am fascinated by your relationship with Shaylin just because I don't quite understand the way you guys communicate. From my perspective, I just don't understand. Like you said something particularly interesting, and maybe this is outdated. Said that I think I'm paraphrasing, cured of my desire to hit women because I want to hit Shaylin, but I don't. Is that sort of I'm paraphrasing here, but like, is that still accurate?
I don't think you're paraphrasing. I think I literally said that.
Ooh, I'm really good at my job. Okay.
I guess haven't would be more accurate than don't, but yes.
Okay, so you can understand, right, why that would be really hard for anyone to hear if they think that physical violence is not appropriate in a relationship. So, like, do your values align with that, or are you allowed to be physically violent in your, sorry, within your values?
No, I don't think it's right to hit your girlfriend, but partly because it's bad for you. I mean, I think that's what I was trying to get across in the video is that if you're hitting or even screaming at your girlfriend in order to get her to do something for you or to take care of you, I mean, to go back to the parenting thing that Steve and I were talking about earlier, I think that's the reason a lot of like unless it's like really serious like beating and punching, I think most physical violence is an attempt to get the other person to be like, hey, calm the fuck down, chill out, I see you're freaking out, I'll take care of this. Or at least that's what it was like in my other relationship. So
Do you mean,
I don't think that
wait, go ahead.
so like yeah, I think there's another kind of violence where you're like trying to subjugate somebody and just pummel them into the ground. I've never been part of and never had that done to me or done it to somebody else. I think the violence I am talking about is, I mean, maybe that violence is ultimately about trying to get the other person to take care of you, but I'm more talking about the violence that's like a desperate clawing at the other person to try to make them take care of you. I don't think it's right. I don't think you should do it, and it's bad for the relationship. It's bad for the other person. And it's bad for you.
So just to clarify, as an example, I think I understand what you mean. Like sometimes you lash out or throw a tantrum, so your partner will then like go into daddy mommy mode and like care for you. And okay, that makes sense to my brain. I just don't understand. Were you being literal? You asked me during our conversation, or you told me during our conversation to take you seriously when you say things. But when I do, I become worried. Like, oh, is this man unsafe? When I see you as a performance artist, I'm like enthralled by your work.
Wait a second. We're talking about do I have values? Am I consistent or am I a safe man? I think those are all different questions. So you may be uncomfortable with what I'm saying, but I don't think that makes it inconsistent.
okay, fair. In relation to you, like, lashing out, just for clarification, so I can, since I have you here, when your ex-girlfriend, who I believe you punched, correct? Like, what was that for? Like, why go to that
Why
length
did I-
of violence?
Why did I punch her in the face?
Yeah.
I lightly punched her in the face. Okay, it wasn't like.
Does
a
that
big
mean
punch.
like this, or does that mean like this? Like, are you
A punch
slapping?
is a closed fist. No, I closed fist punched her in the. I probably punched her like this. It was like. It was probably did not even cause any pain, but it was like definitely punching somebody in the face.
Okay, Max, just
A symbolic face. A symbolic
Okay,
face.
so you can't
wasn't that
make
bad. I
videos.
mean, I don't
Max,
know how
you
to
can't
say
make
it.
videos on the internet aggressively saying you punched a woman and you're a wife, like you're a woman beater, and then come here and be like lightly punched her in the face. Which one is it?
I said it in the video. I said, for the purpose of honesty, I will say I didn't punch her that hard, but I did technically punch my ex in the face, and her reaction was to look at me and say, "Why are you punching me in the face?" Which is exactly what I needed in that moment. There's probably a different way I could have gotten it, I'm sure. But why did I punch her in the face? Because we were going out to lunch with my father.
Yeah, and then you said that you visiting your
It
father.
had-
makes you
honestly-
wanna
it honestly ha-
physically-
Yeah, any proximity to my father made me like 10 times more violent towards my ex. So we were about to have lunch with my father. I think literally that is why I punched her. I don't think it even had anything to. I think she like wasn't responding to me or something, and I was like, hey, I really need you to respond to what I'm saying right now, or I'm gonna lose my shit.
Yeah.
So punching her was my way of letting her know that. Now, I wasn't thinking very clearly when I did this. I'm not saying this was a good thing I did. I'm just saying it happened.
I think that's fair that we talk about our experiences and how nuanced and layered it is. I definitely have not always been a healthy partner in relationships.
No.
I've just never had a partner punch me, and so I can't process that reality very much. And so
Have
I'm
you ever
trying
had
to
a
outside of a
sibling punch you?
domestic, not in the face, but yeah, sure.
Okay, so
Yeah, but we're siblings. Like that's what we're supposed to fight it out, right? Like that's what we do with. Well, not all my siblings.
I don't know.
but the
I
ones
don't know
of
if
us who
that's
can
true
do
that
it.
you're supposed to hit your sibling, but it's common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I don't
usually
know. What
like
do you,
fight it out in like a
are you,
gloves.
again, I already said I don't think you should punch. Like, do I think you should punch your girlfriend in the face? Probably not. No.
Okay, cool.
Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, because by your videos, sometimes you make it sound like you're justified, even though you're saying it's bad.
You
I
know
never-
what? The title of the video is "How I Learned to Stop Hitting Women." So to say that you
still
don't
wanna
know
hit
what the
Shaylin. That's weird.
it's not. I don't think it's weird to want to hit your girlfriend at all.
I
but,
think that's weird. I don't think that's
Well,
healthy.
okay, it might be unhealthy, but do you think it's uncommon?
Yes. Uncommon meaning. I'm sorry. I don't.
Wait, I think we should be
rare.
careful to like explain like what we're talking about exactly because we might be.
Is it
losing
rare? Okay. Do you
Like
think
there are a lot of times where I want to literally like I'll say like there have been times I want to beat the fucking shit out of my kid until he dies. That's like a feeling that I think every parent, when you've got a kid who's acting out in public, you're like, I'm ready to kill you. But like obviously you would never do this because you love your kid, right? And I'm sure that there are probably varying amounts of animosity depending on how emotional we feel towards like our significant others. Where it's like I'm gonna fucking kill you, right? But we obviously would never act on it. So are we talking about that, or are we talking about like I've thought about it and I'm ready to punch you in the fucking face, right? Those are two like different things, right? Like that. I think that. So, but I don't know what you guys might be talking about different things, you know? Yeah.
Well, I don't think we are. I feel like you're. I guess this is my problem. This is my whole problem with you, Brittany. You're saying you want me to be brutally honest about like who I am and my work, so it's all interesting and stuff. But then at the same time, stop every 5 seconds to have a big disclaimer on the screen like, "Don't punch your girlfriend in the face." or you know, like people seem to want me to self-flagellate a lot more. Like I don't feel appropriately bad about it enough. I can tell the story. I can give people a whole like manual of like, here's how I learned to stop being a domestic abuser, and here's my advice for you, and maybe these tips will help you, kids. I don't know. And then, but I don't hate myself enough while I'm saying it. So now you conflate that with me having no values. I love myself. I love the hand that punched my ex-wife in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And I love all of me. Even the
Okay.
abusive parts.
Interesting. I guess I find that perplexing, I suppose.
That I still love myself?
that you like the abusive, that you love the abusive parts.
Well, I see the abusive parts as like a child that I wasn't taking good enough care of, and that my ex was not taking good enough care of while we're in it. But you know, kids lash out, and the child part of you lashes out, and I just think that means it needed more love. And
Okay.
I'm trying to give it that. I'm trying to give it that love, and I have that love. Well, I'm not always loving to myself, to all parts of myself, but I should be, and I want to be.
For sure. I guess if I may, you said something in a video like, I don't need guilt, or guilt is not helpful. If I may, my therapist always said that guilt was like a betrayal of the one's own values, and shame is the betrayal of your bubble's values, like your communities. Bubbles my language, not hers. She would say community. And so I'm curious, like, do you feel guilt?
I know I speak your fucking language. Do I feel guilt about
Yeah.
punching my ex? Do I feel guilt now?
Or in general, like, do you have guilt
Am I
as a way?
capable of feeling? Okay, this is different from having values. I don't want to answer your question, you sick fuck, because now you're saying that having guilt is the same as having values.
Well, like I said,
Don't you
in
think
this
Catholic
definition,
priests feel guilt when they molest kids? Probably, but they keep doing it.
Here, okay,
so
wait.
that
Let
they
me
don't-
let me try to
that's
bridge the
guilt
gap here.
without values.
So here's like the I think the interesting question that Brittany's trying to pose to you is that, like, it seems to be the case that irrespective of whatever action you take, that one, you seem to love yourself no matter what, and two, there is an explanation for every single action that exists. So if we accept those two things are true, and then we take it a step further, and you're talking about things that you've done, and you're not expressing guilt over anything that's happened, then the next question is, like, is it possible that you could ever have a value system that would make somebody feel like, I don't want to say safe, but that would make it feel like you could predict your future actions and things you try to avoid? Because it sounds like, theoretically, you could be in a room with, we'll say, a room with Brittany. She says something really annoying, and you smack the shit out of her, and then 2 weeks later you're like, you shouldn't smack the shit out of women, but I don't regret what I did. I don't have guilt, and I think that, like, I understand why I did it, and I love myself. I think that's, like, the issue, where it's like, okay, well, hold on. Well, without guilt, we feel like we can do no wrong, because, guilt is something that we express when we've done something we feel is wrong, that doesn't comport with our value system. So is there an underlying value system at all, or I think that's, like, the question that's being asked.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think I'm pretty anti-shame and anti-guilt. I think you should feel them when you feel them, but I don't think you should try to play them up or feel them when you don't feel them. So, like, yeah, on some level, I feel guilty about that, but not that guilty, because
How about I'm going to use one more word so that we're speaking the same language. I don't think that, so I understand when you say you don't like the concept of guilt, you made this reference earlier. You're talking about this public self, is it flagellation or whatever?
Flagellation.
Yeah. And I don't think that Brittany is saying, like, have you gone on your knees and begged for forgiveness? She's saying, like, do you feel like...
I do.
No.
I think what she's
wanna
I
go
think what-
back.
I think. Wait, let me finish this. Then you guys do. I think what she's just saying is, like, do you feel that what you did was wrong? That's the question. It's not really like a matter of guilt. It's like, do you feel like you did a wrong action? Is I think what she's asking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, no. The
obviously.
question
Again,
is, would you be open to doing it again?
if I punch a woman in the face, it will be
Unprovoked.
because I snapped, not because I thought it was a good idea. You act like
That's
the first
my
time
question.
Well,
Why do you
punch
snap?
her. Well, hang on. I didn't punch her because I was like, Dear Diary, today I'm going to punch my girlfriend in the face.
Right. Okay.
You know?
So
I didn't-
noted.
It was not premeditated. It was not a premeditated face.
But-
What
so
do you mean
you're
noted?
telling me-
No, don't give me your dishonest lies. You watch the video. You know the entire thing is about getting to a place where you are so emotionally desperate that in an act of frantic desperation and emotional survival and psychological, like, torment, you lash out. You know that is the context that I'm talking about. And the entire video is about how to restructure the rest of your life so that you do not feel so desperate that you have to lash out. Now you're asking me, did you wake up planning to punch her in the face? Like no, obviously that wasn't not the plan, and I have no plans to punch anyone else in the face.
Okay, I think the issue
point of the
I'm
video
having.
is like, yeah.
Yeah, I got you. But when a grown up says, "Hey, I have the potential of snapping," and
We
these
all
are
have
the
the
habits.
potential of snapping.
I've never snapped and hit anyone in the face, and I've gotten pretty fucking close. Like, I'm get pretty angry. Like, I have a
You
relationship with
snapped
my
and
anger.
said you were going to put me in a concentration camp.
Hold on. Wait. Okay, wait.
No,
Let me
I most certainly
commensurate.
did
Let me
not,
make your
Max.
two views. Okay. Let me make your two views. Okay. I can
basically said
talk
that.
from personal experience. Okay. So I was one of the very first people on Twitch. Okay. Pioneer. I was one of the very first people on Twitch to get banned for hate speech because I called somebody the F word in a League of Legends game. Okay. I snapped. I got mad. Called him a bad word. Okay. But at the time, Twitch didn't ban people for that. That was never a ban-worthy thing. That was something they changed just for me. And then they started banning more people afterwards for that type of thing. There are times when I snap, but even when I snap, there are boundaries around that behavior that I will never cross. I don't think I will ever hit a partner. That's just, unless we're talking snapped to the next dimension. Like Melina is like, you know, trying to beat the shit out of my son in front of me, then maybe I will, right? But like generally, short of like anything unfathomable.
I think Melina's a lot more likely to hit you than the other way around.
Yeah, of course.
Based on
obviously.
your
but
conflict
like, yeah,
resolution
sure. But I'm just saying that like,
styles.
if I was a different type of person where I thought
Well, I'm
something
more likely
went-
to hit Shaylin than she is likely to hit
Sure,
me.
sure. But I'm saying that like even in our snapped mode, we have like different levels of like how we feel we ought to restrict our behavior, what we think is acceptable, whatever. And I think that's what's being asked about. So like even when you snap, like for instance, like I'm sure you would agree with this statement. Like I like firearms, okay? But if I were to, you know, me and Melina get into a fight, I go to the other room, get my Glock, and I shoot her to death, and I'm like, oh fuck, Max, I snapped. I think you would still look at me and be like, okay, I understand you snapped, but like, couldn't you have slapped her? Why the fuck did you fire all 17 fucking rounds into her skull? You'd
No,
be like,
I would know exactly. No, I would know exactly why you fired
my
all
gosh.
17 rounds
Sure.
into her skull.
But I'm saying I think that's like the difference. Like, is there a boundary around like the snap behavior or to snap in Max's mind? Because because now the branching paths are, if you answer yes, I can do anything once I snap, then in Brittany's world, she's thinking like, okay, well, your underlying value system then is essentially worthless because why would I care about a value that you have that will instantaneously be broken if you're emotionally compromised? That's not a value at all. Then it means nothing at that point.
Right. Like, I'm borderline, but when I'm triggered, I am obligated, even when triggered, to maintain my values as a way to not harm the people around me. So I have my steps,
Do you think?
I
Do
isolate.
you, so again, are you asking me if I think I'm obligated to not punch my girlfriend in the face?
I'm asking you if you're well enough to restrain violent action against your partner.
How can I be the one to judge that? When you just look at my behavior to establish that?
Well, I don't live in your life, so unless I saw you on the, I don't know how much of
Nobody
your work
thinks.
is-
I mean, very few people think of themselves as domestic abusers. Nobody wakes up thinking like, if I'm, you know, spoken to the wrong way, I'm gonna hit my partner.
Yeah, but I think the
a lot of-
challenge is you've already like publicized some like things that you've done that people would say are abusive, like punching somebody. Now
Sure, I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, but I think that's what's different about me is that I'm publicizing these things about myself. But that I don't think that the way I think about it is that unique in the sense of like, okay, I think this is something that people get confused a lot about with my work. I'm not publicizing it to say that I'm proud of it. I'm just publicizing it. I'm not. It's not like an advertisement for like what a good boyfriend I am.
Okay, then when I post the levels, I'm not posting it to convert people. I'm just sharing my ideas.
That's not true, Brittany. It's not true. I guess you're saying that what I'm saying isn't true.
I'm saying that it's only true if we think it's true. It doesn't matter.
I'm advertising myself as somebody you would want to listen to talk in videos and give money to on Patreon or buy my rap album. That's what I'm advertising. I'm not. It's not a dating site. Like, people. I think a lot of YouTubers make this mistake, where they're like, I will advertise myself as a good content creator by advertising myself as a good person. But a lot of people don't want to watch or hear the thoughts of like a good, normal, well-rounded, clean-shaven, nice person. They want to see a good presentation done by somebody who is like a little rough around the edges. So I'm not, like, me posting it on YouTube is not I'm not condoning my own behavior. I'm just telling a story.
Okay. Then the story you're telling makes me think you might be unsafe to be around. Is that okay?
No, you have to think I'm safe to be around. You know what happens to women who don't think what they have to think. No, yeah, what do you mean is it okay? What am I going to do about you thinking I'm not safe to be around?
Well, that's what
okay
I
to
mean
do
when I
your
say I don't think you have values that are safe enough for people to be around. So that's all I'm saying when I say you don't have
Well, it
values.
sounds like you're talking about impulse control, not values.
This is what Max's
we both
problem.
agree hitting women is bad, so we have that value.
Yeah, but
that sounds
okay.
like you're saying. Sounds like you're saying you don't think I can adhere to the value.
What Max is, I think what Max is Max is unexceptional. Max doesn't think that his thoughts are like uniquely horrible here. Max is like making an ask to the audience, basically saying like, listen, I'm more honest than the average person. That's the exceptional quality about Max. It's not that he wants to hit women or he feels abusive sometimes or he's done these things in the past. It's that he's actually willing to admit it. That's the exceptional quality. So his irritation
I'm not a
is that,
pedophile. I'm just honest.
yeah, sure. So the irritation that he has is that, especially if he comes across somebody like you, that he views as being relatively intelligent, and somebody that's appreciative of his like honesty, that the reason why people in society aren't honest is because they feel judged. And you are somebody that is exceptionally socially intelligent and has an appreciation for his honesty, but then you do the complete normie thing and judge him for the honesty, and then it makes him feel like, well, what the fuck is even the purpose of this? Why even say you appreciate my honesty when I think I'm admitting things that aren't even exceptional? That's what I think that would be like Max's issue with your expression.
I mean,
of
ditto,
saying,
right?
Absolutely.
That's how I felt when you came at me about the levels, where I was like, oh man, like he should have, it's such a cool idea. He should have engaged, but you just called. So I get it. So okay, scratch that. Let's like move that. Moving on. It's okay, Max. I'm getting to know
wait a
the
second.
Max.
This isn't a trial, and you're not a prosecutor. I want to point out that you're conflating me having values with me having impulse control. You're saying you think that I cannot control myself well enough to stick to my values, and that
Based off what
therefore
you told me.
Max the Ripper may strike again.
To be
based
fair
on
though,
what I
because
told
you basically did say that, like, well, sometimes you snap, and when you snap, you can't control yourself. That is kind of what you said, right?
Well, that's the definition of snapping. Yeah.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
most people would say that even when you snap, there's still going to be some boundaries to behavior, right? That are probably going to be drawn well before punching somebody.
Well, if you, let's be honest. All snapping is relative.
Well,
you can snap.
yeah,
you
that
can
no,
snap
no,
and-
hold on,
you can
careful.
snap and call someone the F slur.
Yeah, you can
snap,
say.
like you. Wait a second. You
Yeah.
snapped,
Mhm.
and once you got banned for it, you have not snapped since.
No,
So,
I
like-
have. I absolutely have snapped, but I can control
No,
what I do
you-
when I've snapped. But when you
Well,
say
that- no, that's
okay.
that's not true.
it is
That's-
true. It absolutely
That's
is
bullshit.
true. No, it's
No,
totally
that's
true.
absolute bullshit. The definition of snapping is, I'm going to create a definition right now.
Okay.
Okay, you have a bunch of things you're willing to do.
Mhm.
You're inhibited from doing everything outside of this bubble.
Mhm.
When you snap, the bubble undergoes a rapid expansion where now there's a new set of things that you
Yes.
were not willing to do that suddenly you are willing to do.
Yep.
So you could snap all the way and kill your entire family.
Yes.
Or you could snap a little and say a slur.
Yeah.
But if you say the slur and you get banned, then suddenly the next time, even though you feel the same way, the next time you snap, that slur is still inhibited because you're like, well, I don't want to get fucking banned.
Sure, but all I'm saying is that like people have different levels that they snap to, and part of our dealing with other humans is
Right.
figuring out what those levels look like. So, for instance, if somebody told me that like my partner and I got into a pretty big fight, and then they punched me 3 times in the face, I would say it's time to leave. You need to leave. Now, there is a conceivable world where that person actually did do something where they deserve to get punched 3 times in the face. It would be exceptional. But like chances are, if that's within your boundaries of like
Well,
your first or second
no,
level
no.
snaps, then
I
it's
think
time
this
to
is
leave.
just semantics.
It's
I
not.
think this
It's
is getting into
absolutely.
semantics.
Hold on.
It
It is
absolutely
not semantics.
Let me finish this thought.
Yeah,
'cause I
finish
don't
that
explain
thought. Go
why
ahead,
it's
finish it.
semantics.
Yeah, go ahead. This why.
The question is, the reason it's semantics is, okay, you snapped, you punched somebody 3 times in the face. So the question is this a common amount of snapping for you, where punching the person 3 times in the face is like your first level of snapping? Or did you have an extreme snap, and therefore punching them in the face is out here, but you really lost it all the way? It was like the worst day, you know, everybody died in a plane crash, and you lost your job, and blah, blah, blah. You found out you have cancer, so you really snapped, and blah, blah, blah. But either way, we agree, me punching my ex in the face was not normal behavior. I only did it once. So I did snap in some form. The bubble expanded. So now I feel like what you're asking me is, and this is why it's semantics, you're saying, are you likely to snap that much again?
Yeah.
Or is that behavior so close that if you snap again, it'll just be there?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Either way, you already know it only happened once, and I've already said that I haven't hit Shaylin. So it becomes semantics, because it's just like, where's the camera?
Hold on. It's not semantics. It's paramount to human interaction. The reason why when you interact with somebody, okay, the worst thing about somebody, we'll say cheating, okay, the worst thing about somebody cheating on you isn't that they cheated on you. The worst thing is that now you've discovered they have the capacity to cheat, and once that capacity has been uncovered, you can't go back.
And the capacity to lie.
Yes, sure. But so that's the issue. So so now there are answers that you could have given earlier that would have made everything you just said relevant. If you would have said, like, the reason that I hit her was because, like, I had been pushed to the brink, I was doing finals, she kept waking me up at night, she wanted to blah blah. But you said
because we're going out to lunch with my father.
Exactly. So when you've given that explainer, okay. So this is a guy that when he gets upset because he's stressed about going to lunch with his father, he actually physically strikes people that is near him. That's a pretty frightening capacity. That sounds like a level 1 snap that goes to physical violence. That wasn't like a level 4 or 7 or 8 or whatever Brittany Bubble snaps, right? This wasn't a level 5 snap. That was a level 1 snap. Holy shit. Like, I have the capacity to say, in my internet interactive, I have the capacity to say really mean, nasty things to people. But in order to get me there, you have to go certain levels. Like, I'm not going to trash you personally unless you're willing to go there first, right? Because there's levels to it. And I think we as humans, we try to figure out where those levels are. And right now, I think what Brittany's saying is you've expressed that you have a capacity for physical violence that can be earned on by not much, just like going to lunch with your father. And it seems like you're okay with that, and that's kind of scary.
With my father.
That is true. Maybe your father's,
yeah.
Go ahead.
You know what's kind of sick about this? You're saying that if I threw my ex under the bus, then I would be more likable. Right? If I was like, listen, she was abusive in this way. She did this to me. She did this to me. She did this to me. She had hit me earlier that day. Blah, 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 blah. We established all these things. I was begging her for help. She said the cruelest things. She threatened to leave me if I didn't do X, Y, Z. She had totally under control. And one day, I know it's horrible. I was so horrible. I shouldn't have done this. But one day, I punched her really lightly and blah, blah, blah. And like, but really what I'm doing, I could throw her under the bus and blame her. And then you would say, oh, well, as long as you're not with a toxic bitch, then, it takes 2 to tango, right?
Yeah, but wait, that's okay. What's wrong? But like, why do you think, why do you think you should be throwing her under the bus? Why is that working? Because what you're basically selling to the other person, you're selling them the story that like the only way that I can be pushed to this level is if like somebody goes to this level. Like, so earlier I said that I would never hit a woman. That's not true actually. I did fight with my 2 physically abusive exes. But to get me to that level, they had to be literally attacking me first, to where I was calling the cops on them. So technically I lied earlier. But if I give that explanation, no normal human being that I date is never going to escalate to physical violence, because they're going to be fucking hitting me, right? But that's an important descriptor to show that, like, yeah, I guess like there are times where I'll fight with a girlfriend or wife, I guess. But like, in order to get to that point, you have to attack me first. That's like an exceptional snap. Otherwise, I've been super mad at plenty of like exes and shit, but I've never hit them before, right? So I think that giving that qualification is really important. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important to me that if I'm going to be talking about hitting women on my channel, that I own it 100%.
Yeah, but what are you owning though?
my capacity to punch a fucking woman in the face.
Yeah, but the
I'm saying,
capacity,
like,
where is it set out from, right? Like, I'll own saying bad things in the past, like racial slurs or stuff I shouldn't be saying, but I'm never gonna own like being racist.
if
Like,
I
there's a
if I
difference,
make
right?
a new video, if I was making a video called "How to Not Get Your Perfectly Reasonable Husband to Punch You in the Fucking Face," here are 10 behaviors you should avoid, you bitch. Then yes, I would definitely include the context that we're talking about. But I wanted to make a video about and present domestic violence in a completely unapologetic and empathic light. And so if I'm saying here's how to empathize with a domestic abuser or as someone in a domestic violence situation, and that empathy can lead you out of it. By empathizing with people who are violent in relationships, it can actually provide us a solution, like a roadmap for understanding them and getting their needs met, because that's ultimately the problem. If I start that out by saying like, hey guys, I'm not like those other domestic abusers who hit their girlfriends for absolutely no fucking reason at all. They do it for fun. They do it just to hear their knuckles bounce off their girlfriends' faces. Then really what I'm saying is I'm not a real domestic abuser. I'm one of the good ones. And I don't want to do that. I want to present it as this is a story and an advice that is simultaneously really hard to relate to, but also could relate to anybody in any domestic violence situation, where you can look at it and you can say,
Yeah, you can do that. If that's your goal at the end of the day, that's fine. But now you're doing yourself a
is.
disservice. You just have to be aware of that, right? Like there are times in my past, especially as a teenager, where I've probably done things that are like rapey. I'll admit that 100%. I'll do it for purposes of panels too, because I think that empathy is important. Like, yeah, I talk a lot about consent and all of this shit, and I think I do a really good job of it now, but I've made mistakes in the past that are absolutely like rapey as fuck, 100%. But if I were to do a YouTube video and I'd be like, I just want you guys to know, I've raped women in the past, and they didn't even deserve it. I full on fucking raped them, and I'm gonna tell you now today why we shouldn't rape people, right? It would be, now somebody, I could do that for empathy, but if a girl was like, I don't know if I wanna be in a room alone with Steve, he said he's a rapist, and he said they didn't even deserve to get raped, or I don't know now, right? I think it's okay to give qualifications for what's happened so that people have a level, if you expect people to view you in a certain way, yeah.
I just think there's something inherently abusive. But if I'm trying to come clean, I think there's something inherently abusive about saying she deserved to get punched in the face, which is basically what Brittany is saying. She would feel more comfortable if I made some case for why my ex deserved to get punched in the face, which undermines the whole fucking premise, which is that nobody deserves to get punched in the face. So if I'm making a video that's like a manual...
I don't know, man. There are some people that might deserve to get fucking beat the shit out of every now and then. There's some fucked up people out there, but...
anti-domestic violence, so I have to say I don't think anybody deserves to have their partner punch them in the face. And yeah, so if I'm making a video about that, with that as like the foundational belief, and it's a guide, basically how to not punch your partner in the face, by throwing her under the bus, because I have all the power of the edit, all the power of storytelling, everybody watching the video already likes me, and probably already either dislikes her or has complicated feelings about her. I'm very careful with how I talk about my ex, because I don't want people to hate her.
Okay.
And I don't hate her.
I'm doing too much of this conversation, so go, Brittany, go ahead.
Okay, I actually have a story that's, I guess, maybe similar. See, you know how you say you lightly punched her? I'm like, why are you even owning a punch then? Just say you, like, tapped her on the face with your fist. Like, it's not even accurate to say. When I hear punch, Max, I hear punch. Like,
well, I explained it in the story. I said I punched her lightly,
but that's not what people focus on.
Well, it's fine. They can focus on whatever they want. That's what happened. And she looked at me and said, "Why are you punching me in the face?"
But
so
you said it with such like dramatic, like telling. This is what I'm saying. Are you smart enough to know that you were making the audience feel uncomfortable?
Yes,
you're making it sound like you're a villain.
Empathizing with somebody who hits their partner is uncomfortable.
No.
Absolutely.
You've made it so much where I couldn't empathize with you because you were just. It didn't allow me a chance to empathize with you, and I wanted a chance to. May I tell you a story really fast about my time I hit my ex?
Yeah, but I predict that you are going to throw your ex under the bus to make it so that we empathize with you and not your ex.
Okay, let's see.
It's the exact thing I didn't want to do.
I really struggled with this, like for a long time, of how to view myself.
I want you to empathize with my ex when you're watching the video, not just.
I know, but I couldn't because I was too busy feeling uncomfortable about like how dangerous is Max when I watched your video. I didn't even I just thought about her as this girl who was like a total victim to the situation, whose boyfriend, when he saw his dad, beat her. Like, that's what I came away with.
Okay.
You only hit her once, but it made it sound like every time you saw your dad, you beat her. Is that inaccurate?
Is it inaccurate that it sounded like that to you? It sounds like it did sound like that to you.
Well, dude, did you beat your girlfriend every time you saw your father?
I wouldn't even call it beating her. I just punched her lightly once in the face.
Okay. You see, like,
The
how this
video
conversation...
stands. I stand by the video. I don't want to submit to your questioning.
I'm just trying to say, like, when we... Okay. In DBT therapy, you learn to explain to people why you were bad, but you don't use it as an excuse. I'm sorry I lashed out. I want you to know I have a mental illness. I was triggered. This is why it happened. I will work on myself and do my steps and not do it again, right?
I think that's a bunch of horse shit.
An explanation, not an excuse?
It is an excuse.
Well, it's
Say
not
I
an
punched you in the
excuse,
face
it's an
because I fucking felt like it because you were pissing me off and I was sad.
No, I was triggered and I acted out of turn and I am remorseful and I do not want to be that person whether
Those
I'm
are all
triggered or not.
externalizing. You're like the stars made me punch you in the face. I think you should just take it. Take it.
No,
If you
you're
hey, if you're gonna
responsible?
punch somebody in the face, you should be able to take square on the reaction of people to the fact that that happened.
Okay, so I'll give you an example then. I was having sex with my ex and I have PTSD and I didn't know it then and I got triggered and I hadn't told him about the rape because I hadn't told anyone about my rape. It was like 6 to 8 years later. I just didn't tell anyone until I went to therapy. And we were in the middle of sex and I said, get off me. I used our safe words. I used all the things I'm supposed to use and I started to have like a trigger. As a way of helping me, because in the past I explained to him that sitting on me helps because I like to be pushed down. He sat on me and I said, no, red, hard red. Like, this is a safe word. Like, this is not well helping. I'm triggered for a reason I don't understand. I need you to get off me. Like, and I kept saying, like, it's like during sex, I kept saying, oh my God, it's happening again. And this had never happened. I've had sex hundreds of thousands, like, I don't even know how many times.
Hundreds of
right?
thousands of
I
times.
stopped there. You know,
Okay.
relax, everybody. I'm an exaggerator. But, like, I didn't ever get triggered. And for some reason that night, it was just, like, perfect chemistry. So he started to grab me, and he wouldn't let me leave the apartment. So I kept shoving his chest. I was like, get off me. And he was like, no. And I was like, you have to let me go. Red, hard red. I'm using my safe words. Let me go. And he was like, no, you're doing something crazy. I don't want you to run out of this apartment and get hurt. And I was like, I'm not going to get hurt. Leave me alone. I already know how to take care of myself. And we were arguing about how, you know, in the middle of a trigger, like, and I was so confused, so I kept shoving him. And then after we broke up, he would tell people, like, oh, she hit me. And that really fucked with me. Because I was like, did I hit him? And I didn't, is that hitting people? Like, and I was so confused. So, like, what did I do, Max? Tell me, was I a domestic abuse person? Or did I just react out of a trigger? Or should I have done it differently? Or, like, what?
No, it
should
sounds
he
like
have never
it sounds
touched
like
me?
you're a saint, a saint in a sea of rapist abusers defending yourself. I hope they see jail time.
Based.
Okay, so let's compare our stories.
Okay.
Okay. So
Mhm.
my story was told for the purpose of trying to get people to understand the mindset of somebody who participates in domestic violence and how that mindset can change over time.
Are we
It's designed
defining
to be
domestic violence differently?
people hitting fucking each other.
I disagree.
Wait, what do you disagree on
Yeah.
for that?
I don't know if that's accurate. Because, like,
Wait,
My
if that
siblings
if
and
that
I-
describes domestic violence,
I always thought of domestic violence as like, if you know how rape and sex are the same thing except the consent thing. Domestic violence has to have like some sort of like line. I feel like where the person who's being like, I never thought of my partner as a domestic abuser. I don't think of him as a sexual assaulter. I don't think of him as like even abusive, just like really toxic and unhealthy. But I don't think of him as like a rapist or like an abuser. I just look at him as like, yeah, a guy who was toxic and didn't go to therapy. Like, that's life. That's what happens.
Well, that's fine. You can define those differently if you want. But based on the story you just told, if a police officer had been in the room, he probably would have been arrested a few different times.
Wouldn't I be arrested
No.
too? Because I shoved him?
No, if somebody rapes you, it's legal to push them off. Or kidnaps you, or falsely restrains or imprisons you. You're allowed to push them off.
Okay. So I was acting in self-defense, basically.
From what you
Even though
said,
I
it
was-
sounds like it.
Okay, so is that so? Even though hitting occurred, it's not domestic abuse. Or domestic
I said
violence?
domestic violence. The domestic
Okay,
violence.
so domestic
From the story you told, the domestic violence was happening to you, not by you.
Even though I hit him after he wouldn't leave me alone, after I safe worded.
Yes. Well, you didn't even say you hit him. You said you pushed him, and that
I
he
did.
was grabbing
Well, I
you.
mean, hitting. Yeah, I don't know how
You
to.
said he
push
was
things.
grabbing you and forcing you to stay
Yes.
in the house when you pushed him. So I don't
Yes.
think anybody's gonna interpret that as you being a abuser. No.
Okay, so you think our stories? I'm trying to correlate. So it's like the details are similar-ish. Like one person hit another person, or slapped, or pushed. I guess it's all kind
Well,
of.
your story started out with somebody raping you, and then somebody
Whoa,
else.
we were
raped.
having consensual sex.
You started.
My boyfriend and I
Well, okay.
were having
You said
consensual sex.
once
and I
upon a
got
time I got raped. Then another man and I were having sex. Then I told him to stop. He proceeded to rape me anyway. Then I told him to get off of me.
that is not what I said. Stop. I was having consensual sex with my then boyfriend,
Yes.
and I got triggered because something
Yes.
happened during sex that reminded me of my assault.
Yes.
Unaware the assault had even occurred, did not
Uh-huh.
know what to do and panicked and tried to pin me down so I couldn't leave the apartment.
While you were having
He-
sex.
Yes, but I had removed myself from that positioning. He had let me go, and I had run into the room, and I said, I have to
Okay.
leave this
Well, the first time you
apartment.
told the story, it sounded like you said that you tried to stop him from having sex with you and were unable to do so for a brief time.
No. We were having sex, then I got triggered, and I removed myself from the bedroom, and I said, I need
So
to
then
get out of this
he
apartment.
pinned you down and sat on you. You said the safe word a bunch of times, and he didn't
Yes.
listen. Okay.
Right. So then I shoved him, and I said, I'm very serious. You need to get off me. And he just wouldn't
Yep.
hear me because he
I
was
got-
afraid. Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
Such dir was Bestimmtes?
So in your situation, you said we're going to compare stories. It was a little different.
Yeah.
Auf dann.
Yeah.
Okay.
What Max is saying is that like Max can give an interesting perspective on, because when people think of domestic violence, they think of them as like insanely horrible, evil people. But he wanted to give an explanation of like, I think my mindset is relatively unexceptional. This is how
Kann ich
like
euch helfen?
somebody might get into a domestic abuse incident basically. But your
Yeah.
story is nobody would think that ever. They would go like, oh well, of course
Okay.
Brittany was fully justified throughout the entire time. That's what every
Okay.
single person would think looking at that, right?
And then just to clarification, because I love this empathy, I love the nuance. I do think people can be a domestic violent person yesterday and not today.
Seid
And I'm just
vorsichtig.
clarifying that you, Max, are saying that you
What
are no
about
longer that
tomorrow?
person.
But
Well,
what
I don't
about-
think so. I think
I don't know.
that's what worries me is how do you not know that you won't hit a woman again? Or a man or your
How the
partner.
fuck can I know? I don't know. I don't know.
If I asked my father, would you ever hit my mother? He'd be like, Betsy, I'd rather kill myself first. Like, don't you understand that some people have a
Yeah,
very
well, maybe they
strong,
don't have a very
honorable
passionate
feeling?
relationship, Brittany.
I mean, 10 kids later, there's some passion there.
Was ist das?
Okay, so they had sex 10
Well done.
times. That doesn't prove anything.
They're still having sex, and my mom's way past that time of having babies. But yeah, they have a very, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just asking you. I think it's great what you're trying to do.
You're asking me why I'm not like your father.
No, I'm asking you if you realize that
I
in
don't
order for
realize
people-
anything you're saying. I don't agree with you. There's nothing to realize.
People can't rally behind someone who hasn't changed, and they can't rally behind someone who hasn't like become
Okay, so you're saying if I make a new video that says, "Hey, oops, I hit Shaylin, I fucked up. I hit Shaylin. I said I wasn't going to, but I did. Here are the circumstances. I tell the story." You're saying that am I going to get banned, or well, who's not going to rally behind me that's behind me right now? As though I have a large chunk of my fan base who's like, we never thought Mr. Girl would ever do anything wrong ever again.
Brittany is saying that your behavior was exceptional, and you need to demonstrate that you've changed and you're not that person anymore. But Max is saying that his behavior was unexceptional. He was just trying to explain his state of mind at the time. That's the difference, right? So what you're but you asking him to show how he's changed from that person would be for him to deny the initial creation of that video ever, which was to just showcase how people can domestically abuse people. Because what you're asking him to change into in his eyes is not a real person. That's a fake public person that is dishonest with people about what they feel and what they do.
But people change. I'm asking Max, does he change?
They change, but they sometimes change for the worse. So I don't know.
Yes.
I may have changed for the better now, but maybe I'll take a downturn and start hitting people again. I don't know.
Okay, so in that case, I think it's fair that people would feel afraid of being around you, especially a 5'1" woman like myself who's 125 pounds. I might hesitate to be in a room with you alone. Is that fair?
It's absolutely up to you how you feel and express.
I don't know why.
Okay, hold on, wait. To be clear, hold on, wait. This is Brittany is not trying to say, like, do I have your permission to feel a certain way? What she's trying to say is, can you acknowledge that what you are saying would logically lead any woman to feel this way? That's what she's asking. That's what she's really saying.
I don't think it's super logical, but I understand that that's how some women are. And
do you think that, like, it's reasonable that a woman might be in a room with you and be like, can you please show me your iPhone real quick? I want to see if you have, like, Apple tracking with your dad to make sure that he's not going to show up, then I get my ass beat. That's like
that's more reasonable. That's true. I don't really understand. You're asking me to validate your feelings and say that they make sense. As I said, I think you're a bit crazy, so I don't think they make that much sense, but I do follow what you're saying.
You think I'm crazy for wanting to feel safe alone in a room with a man?
That's admitted to hitting somebody for kind of a light reason.
And still thinks about hitting his current girlfriend.
And doesn't express any guilt or remorse about his prior hit.
I express remorse.
Oh, okay. So there's a little bit of guilt. Oh, not guilt, but remorse.
I regret. Regret's a good word. I think it's a more dignified word.
Okay.
I regret my actions. I think yes. I think you're insane. Slightly. About us or being insane right now. And
you think I'm being insane in this conversation?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. You haven't earned me hitting you. You got main character syndrome. I'm gonna hit you.
When you say, okay, so let's explain this.
I would hit you.
When you say you feel like she's being insane in this conversation, what part of her thought process do you feel is unreasonable?
Do you know how jealous Shaylin would get if I hit you?
Oh, Jesus.
She would kill me. She would
kill
me if I hit another woman.
I'm good. I can't trust you. I wouldn't be able to negotiate a BDSM scene with you because I don't know that you would actually follow the rules.
Oh, he's not talking about BDSM.
I'm not talking about BDSM.
Then I'm out. I don't do domestic violence. I'm sorry.
That's
Shaylin. Okay. Shaylin would be more jealous if I hit another woman than if I fucked another woman.
I recommend therapy.
Okay, wait, he's already in therapy. Okay, hold on, wait. Let's move off this tangent. Okay, this is a very sharp edge. Okay, so when you say that you feel like Brittany is being insane, then there's some sort of irrational feeling that you think that she has. What do you think is irrational about her thought process? Or what do you mean when you say that she's insane here?
Just that I think that she is. Yes, I didn't give much context for the story, but you knew that we're in a relationship. I just think that most.
There needs to be more to justify hitting someone than you were in a relationship, right?
Well, I'm not saying it's justified. I'm just saying if you're just making a predictive model of like, is Max gonna hit me? I feel like being in a room with me is probably not a great predictor. Like I'd be in jail if I was just hitting people whenever I'm in a room with them. I would be in jail.
I think that people will broadly use heuristics to predict other behavior. So, for instance, let's say that I was in a room. Let's say that you found out that I was a serial rapist. I raped 3 women, and now you're a woman and you're alone in a room with me. And then you're like, okay, this is a little bit worrisome. And I say, no, what do you mean? All 3 women that I raped are 24. You're 26. I would never rape you. The person's probably going to be like, okay, well, hold on. I don't know if like that might not be the difference for you, right? So if you have the capacity to hit a woman, any woman might think, I don't know if I feel safe around this dude. And you're like, well, I'm not dating you, so I won't hit you. I don't know if most people would make that jump, you know?
I think based on our personality types, I'm probably 1,000 times more likely to hit you than Steven is.
How does this help at all?
But that could be a thousandth of a percent and 1%. You know, it could still it's a very minor chance. So I won't say that it's more like it's not. Yeah, of course it's more. I've done it before.
Do you know what you sound like? Like I want to help you. I feel bad for you. Like you
know what? I feel bad for you too.
Oh God, are we just?
Do you know what you sound like?
I do know, but I'm okay being a hippy dippy bitch. But like you get mad when I.
That's not what you sound like.
What do I sound like?
A Nazi.
Go ahead.
Oh
my God, Nazi! I
Go
don't
on.
even.
Go on.
So
Go on.
I appreciate Max's hyper autism. I am similar in some ways. I'm just more aware of it. For like, Melina would always ask me. I hate it when I'm dating someone and like a girl asks, "Oh, like, do you think we'll be together forever?" I'm like, I don't fucking know. Damn, dude, some shit might come up in 2 weeks and I fucking hate you. Like, I'm not gonna make that fucking prediction. Like, why the fuck are you asking me that question? I've given similarly autistic answers, but like, you have to understand that like, or I think for Max,
think about how it sounds.
Yeah, when people are asking you questions, we play a lot of linguistic games. Like when somebody says, like for instance, I'll say with Melina. When Melina says like, "Do you think we're gonna be together forever?" She's not really asking that. That's a stupid question, and even she knows that's a stupid question. What she's really asking is like, "Do you feel like you love me so much right now that in your mind you're probably gonna love me, you know, until the end of time?" That's what she's really asking, right? So when Brittany's saying like, "Do you know how you sound?" Brittany's not saying like, "Can you give me a precise percentage chance on whether or not you will domestically abuse me or physically abuse me forever together in a room?" It's more like, "Do you think that you have the capacity to hit somebody like without provocation?" That's like really what's being asked. And when you ask that question and then you're kind of, or when she asks and then you're a little dodgy about the answer, like, "Yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah," it feels like there's like this tacit admission. Like? Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe, you know, it depends on what you wear that day. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. You know, that's kind of what it sounds like. That's the feeling, I guess, you know.
I believe that virtue signaling
Ich muss näher ran.
gets in the way of us being honest with each other. And while each virtue signal can make sense, can even ease communication in the moment and help us get our message across, I find that as a practice, it's
Ich bin außer Reichweite.
eroding like honesty,
Das ist zu
especially
weit
on
entfernt.
social media. So
That's
since we're
So-
in the middle of a stream, I'm gonna give you a different answer than like if you were like a friend of a friend and we're like at a dinner party and you're like, "Wait, do you think is it cool to be here with you? Like, are you gonna hit me?" Like, I would give a different answer in like an actual like social situation, but that's not you're talking to me as like the guy who made the video, you know, and so like it's different.
So I'm going to take this a step further. I think virtue signaling is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with virtue signaling. When people use virtue signaling as a pejorative, they're really using that as a shorthand. The full sentence is, "I think you're signaling a virtue that you don't have," right? If I meet a girl at a restaurant and I stop a little bit longer to like open the door for her, I'm virtue signaling that I'm a polite person. Or if I open the door for her to get into the car, right? No, it is true. I'm trying to show you, like, I'm a nice dude. I'm a considerate guy, right? Like,
But you're always gonna hold the door for her?
Probably, because I'm a pretty considerate person. Like, maybe, okay. Yeah. But like, but I'm trying to signal, because that's what you do with language and actions. You do try to signal your virtues or your vices, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but when it gets into this like Inquisition shit online, where people are like purity testing you,
I don't think it's a purity
do you love
test.
black people? Like, do you love black people? That is a perfect example of a purity test where you're being asked to virtue signal in a way that's like.
It would be like if somebody asked me
Like, I don't
if
wanna
I
answer
love
that.
black people or if I like black people after I do a 2-hour monologue about black crime stats and how I think Africans are fundamentally different than white people. If somebody at the end of that would be like, "Do you actually like black people?" I think that would be a legitimate question because I've sold a pretty different image, right? And that's kind of what's happening, right? We're like, "Yeah, I beat her, but my dad was close by."
Well,
I guess
I'm
dating
saying
you,
I
right?
think
Yeah.
I think what Brittany's doing is similarly dishonest.
Okay.
Why?
think
What am
it's-
I
I
being
think-
dishonest about? That's what confuses me. I'm just asking questions, and I'm
Well,
confused by your behavior.
Yeah,
so I know
just
what to-
asking questions, it should be your fucking name of your channel. I think that saying because you hit your ex you had like a super contentious relationship with, I think now you might hit me, I don't know. It's like you want me to hit you. Like you want me to, like you're not that special to me. I don't know you, Brittany. No.
See, what are you doing right now? See, in the first call, I thought we were having a meta conversation when you would do this, because you know how we kind of flirted in DMs? I thought it was okay, and then you called me rapey, and now you're doing it again. You're flirting. This is flirting. You know I'm kinky. You know I like being spanked.
Okay,
So
wait,
why-
Brittany. Hold on. Wait, that is.
You're
Hold on. Just.
sexualizing the.
Wait,
Yeah, wait. I don't
I'm
think
not-
Brittany.
I'm
That
not-
is not at all the conversation that he's
Okay,
engaged
but
in
listen
right
to
now.
what I'm saying. In my
I'm
world,
hearing
if he knows what I'm into and then brings it up in that voice, in my girl brain
talking
goes,
about-
oh,
I'm talking about punching you in the face.
okay, but like, are you literally? Why would you punch me in the face? You just said I had to date you to be punched in the face in a violent way, so you must mean it in a.
No, this is the conversation we're having. You're asking. You said, "Is it reasonable for me to be afraid that you're going to punch me in the face?" And I'm making fun of you for asking that question.
Because I'd have to date you to be.
Steven
even
is trying
open.
to. Steven is trying to help you. Help us understand each other and sort of explaining why you asked that question by giving.
Okay, hold on. But actually, hold on. I have to think. Jesus Christ, my brain is fucking fried. I have made jokes actually like that towards people if I'm being flirty. I've made rape jokes towards girls where
I'm
I'll
not
say some
saying-
shit like
I'm
that.
not saying
So
it could-
I actually
couldn't
I
make
can
me
understand how
flirty.
somebody could interpret it that way because you
Absolutely,
Just,
I understand how Brittany
And
could interpret it that way.
explicitly, no, explicitly, Max.
to somebody that you know
DMs
likes BDSM and all that shit. I
Like,
gotta
yes,
know.
and in the messages, in the DMs, you literally, like, that's what I'm saying. Were you not flirting with me in those DMs? Like, I'm so confused.
When I said I think I said I understand that you would like it if I yelled at you.
Yes,
I
and then
did
you
not
said-
intend that to.
And then you said, here's a bunch of videos of me yelling at Shaylin to tie you over. Or something like, you can watch.
Oh yes, I didn't.
That's flirting, isn't it? Am I that autistic too?
I don't. I
Isn't the
don't think I
autistic
meant for. I understand why you're saying that's flirtatious. I think I was just trying to ease the tension with some humor.
Oh my god. That's so
Oh
embarrassing
man,
for
there's so
me.
much autism in this call. I love it.
I
That
know.
was great.
I was trying to just make a joke. You know, when somebody comes on to you and then you make a joke to be like, oh, let's divert into a joke. I think I was trying to just say, like, here's some videos that you... Well, one, I think I was bringing up Shaylin because I'm like, whenever somebody starts flirting with me, I'm like, hey, I have a girlfriend. Here she
just
is.
say I'm
Now you-
monogamous and I have a girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, okay, my bad.
I think the
don't
issue
know
is
if
that
it's
one thing is that like
relationship.
humor can be
I
used
don't know if
to
you're monogamous or not.
humor can be used to
Humor
like
can be used to
awkwardly. It can be
yeah.
used to diffuse the situation, but it can also be used for like if somebody says like, man, if I was near you, I'd fucking jump you right now, and I'm like, yeah, shame there's so much distance between us, right? Is that an invitation for them to keep pushing, or am I
Right,
trying to like
right.
awkwardly skirt? Right, it could be hard for
Yeah.
people to figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I was super clear in my response or that I
Great.
even
So
wanted
now
to be super
I'm just
clear.
embarrassed in an autistic
You needed to
viewer
virtue
who-
signal
no,
more,
no,
Max, about
I-
not
I-
being sexually interested. That's what you need to do. See, this is where the virtue signal would have been good.
Okay. I don't think you need to be embarrassed about that or anything. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm just trying to say that yeah, so if I say you haven't earned me punching you in the face, I guess you could take that to be flirtatious. But that's not my intention. I'm just saying that I think it is presumptuous of you. I'm trying to make the point that the argument I'm making, which is it is presumptuous of you to think that because I hit my ex in the
Yeah.
face in a super intimate, long, multi-year relationship, that somehow you're not safe to just be alone in a room with me because suddenly I might just hit it. I'm saying it is a very special, meaningful thing to have me punch you in the face. Only one person gets to say
Yeah.
that that's ever happened.
I
you know?
concede. I did
That's-
presume.
that's-
I made an assumption based. Based off of data, and I guess you're telling me I'm wrong, and I will keep that in mind for future possible interactions.
Well, it's all probabilistic.
Yeah,
So
it makes me feel unsure. I like consistency in my life.
I don't see myself hitting you, but I don't know. I don't see myself hitting Shaylin either. But you know, yes, it's undeniable See, the thing, you've got me in a trap where either way, either I'm like saying like I'm a changed man, I'm cured. Like I said that in the video, but I was joking because I'm saying like who fucking knows if I'm cured? I don't fucking
Are you
know.
afraid like future Max might go back on that idea of I'm changed, and then therefore all the work you've done? Because like even if I relapse with my borderline,
No, I'll just make another
wouldn't be a
video about how
failure.
I'll make a video about how said that's called how I started hitting women again.
I think
And I'll
okay,
just-
like the problem is, Brittany, is you're looking for a change, but Max is trying to be autistically honest to a fault, right?
So he's like in it.
No. It's like if somebody would ask me, like, hey, like this is something I say a lot to people. Someone asked me like, hey, are you lying to me? I hate it when people ask me that question. I think we might have had a talk privately where I literally repeated this to you. And I said, don't ever ask me if I'm lying, because if I was lying, obviously I wouldn't fucking tell you that I'm lying. Why the fuck would you ever ask me if I'm lying to you? That's the dumbest question in the world. But obviously, when a person is saying that, they're not literally asking to do that dialogue tree. They just want like an assurance, like say something to reassure me, right? Max is being honest in that, like, I don't think he sees himself as an abuser. He's not going to abuse somebody. He doesn't plan on doing it. But he's the honesty to a fault is that he's not going to lie and say there's no chance that he would never abuse anybody in the future, ever hit anybody in the future. Because if we're all being honest, that is to some degree a possibility, right? And then Max would probably take it a step further, and he would say even more, this is a virtue signal. You should be more worried about the person that would say they would never hit you, because that person's not being honest. But at least he's honest enough to admit, like, under which conditions he would do it. And one of those conditions is being in a back and forth horrible relationship where there are instigating factors external to the relationship that drives him to do it.
Yeah, I think in my head I made the mistake of framing it as, if I'm in a healthy situation, would I then do this? And you're saying, well, obviously it would have to be a certain amount of unhealthiness to get to this point. And
Well,
that's
I
fair.
would define punching your girlfriend in the face as unhealthy.
Yes. Yes,
So,
right?
I
Okay.
would say necessarily it's an unhealthy situation.
Right. Okay. So I think because of my like my type of therapy that I went through, the idea is to try to control your life enough so you're not in that situation, because you don't want to be that person again. So I try very hard to make sure that I do steps so future Brittany doesn't have to be in a situation where she's losing spoons all day, or like I've been this week. I had to take work off to go to the doctor to work on my medical stuff because I was like losing spoons. I was getting irritated at my brothers, and I was like, I'm sorry, I am snapping at all of you, and I think I just don't have spoons, so nobody talk to me for a few days because I don't know what's going on with my body, And then when I figured it out, I was like in a better mood today. I'm glad you called today because I couldn't have picked up the phone yesterday. I was too busy like crying over my body. But I'm glad you called today because I'm feeling great. You know what I mean? It's a different Brittany today. So I guess I understand better now. And I thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I hope this is like good energy now. I feel pretty good.
I don't know.
You don't know still?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think if I had to guess, if I'm reaching into the mind, I feel like I'm autistic enough to understand both of you. I think that the takeaway here is that Max doesn't feel like there's a resolution because you're still simultaneously, it feels like you're asking him for a level of honesty that you can't handle. You're asking him to be honest to a fault about the way that he views the world and how he feels about things, but when he gives you those answers that he feels like are honest and unexceptional, this is how most people feel, you're going to turn around and judge him for it, and it's like, well, what the fuck was the point?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me think about that, because I feel much more relieved now that we've talked. I feel like I understand you better. Do I feel like I'm judging you? I don't know that I feel that way. I feel like you made your point very clear, and that to accept Max, must accept that he is unsure and honest about that unsureness about his future self. And so that's interesting to me, and I am going to just accept I accept that this is your honest position now. I didn't believe it before, but now that this conversation happened, I feel like you're being honest with me. But I don't know you, Max, personally enough, so I'm just going off faith now.
It's kind of a
you
power
are.
play.
Am I the top?
It's not a sexual power play. It's a manipulative person power
Top
play.
and bottom doesn't have to be sexual, Max, obviously.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Brittany
have
doesn't
to
even
be sexual.
incorporate sex into her BDSM play. If you've listened to her
Thank
videos,
you
you
for
would know
listening
that.
to me,
Yeah.
Steven, when I talk. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that coming in here and interrogating me about my stance
I was
on
invited.
punching my...
I was invited.
Oh,
I
I,
was
know
called.
you're invited. You still waltzed in. I think interrogating me on my stances of punching my ex in the face, and even though I made it perfectly clear in the video exactly what I was saying, capitalizing on the fact that people are talking about this lately and You get to
Okay,
be
but
in a
Max,
position where
Max,
you get.
stop.
No, no, no,
This
no,
is
no,
why I
no.
don't
Let me
believe you.
finish.
Let him
Let me
finish.
finish my sentence.
Let him
Let me
finish.
finish my sentence.
Let him
Bro.
finish.
Capitalizing on the fact that people are talking about this and that you think it's going to be a sore spot or a weak spot, especially just after a pretty vulnerable conversation with Steven, where we're both being pretty open about ourselves. Then you come in with the Inquisitor, no sense of being like, oh, I can relate to you because I'm a fucking psycho controlling person too, and I absolutely know what would take to get me to snap and hit somebody, do a bunch of horrible shit because I'm kind of unstable myself. No, that's not the stance you take. You come in like a police officer trying to get me to trip up and contradict myself, and the whole time, even just the fact that you're asking these questions gets to put you in a nice light and put me in a bad light. And then you're saying things like, oh, I guess I think because somebody hit their ex once 10 years ago, maybe it's not safe to be alone in a room with them. I don't think you feel safe being alone in a room with me. I think that's a lie. I think that you are trying to put me in my place and make me feel how you felt the last time we talked. I think a lot of the things you're saying, while technically
I feel like you're
are
playing with me.
not lies, the premises of what you're saying are a lot of it is dishonest. And
See, I can't tell again. Like, are you playing a game? Right
No,
now?
he's not. Okay, I think you totally misunderstand every single thing Brittany's saying. But then this is always like my main contention is I feel like sometimes you say things but you don't understand. I think I communicated this before that Sometimes there's a ritual that humans do, and breaking the ritual makes people uncomfortable, not because the ritual itself is important, but just the fact that you would break the ritual makes people uncomfortable. And I always feel like that's like a fundamental step between you and another person for understanding. Because I think that, actually, well, here's a question.
I think you're giving Brittany a pass.
Yeah, my whole audience does, don't worry. So here's a question that I would
think
have
you're giving
for
her a different pass than they think.
Okay, and maybe. Here's a question. I give both of you lots of passes, okay? So I think you're both interesting, fascinating people, okay? Here's a question that I would ask you. Do you think if the average woman consumed some of your content, that video and say this conversation, and you were to poll the average woman, do you think that Max has a higher or lower propensity for domestic violence? What do you think the average woman would say?
Higher than the average person?
Yeah, if you pull the average woman after watching that video and then your conversation here.
Probably moderately higher.
Yeah, and I think that's all Brittany's saying. But you are trying to say...
No, that's not all Brittany's saying. Brittany's getting revenge.
What?
That's not all Brittany's saying.
That's what I'm
also,
saying.
Brittany,
Are you joking
Brittany...
right now? This feels like a joke.
No, he's not joking.
I'm not joking.
Brittany, stop accusing him of joking. Hold on, wait, stop. No, wait, you're gonna trigger me. Don't ever accuse Max of joking. He's not joking. He's being very sincere.
So
There is no game being played here.
Revenge for what, though? Like, that's what I'm saying.
For embarrassing you.
Habibi, do you mean the conversation we had, like, just the two of us? Like, I came out on fucking top. What are you talking about? I literally was... What do you mean? That was my win. If you preface the whole conversation as a win or lose, I obviously, like, felt like I dominated. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't know that you feel that way all the way through.
Yeah,
I think our conversation was, in some circles, in certain fan bases, could potentially have been damaging to your reputation.
Oh, I mean,
and you blame that on me, and you blame that on me.
No. You're misunderstanding me now. You need to see Brittany. Brittany caters to women.
I see Brittany.
I talk to queer people. Your audiences are lovely, but they're not people that I think speak my language. So I don't think they're ever going to, as a general whole, though I have a few DD years.
I think you're getting revenge on me. You don't. That's fine. That's what
I don't feel like I need to get revenge on anything. I thought it was a great, wonderful conversation. That's why I'm here right now. I really
I think Steven's giving you a
you.
pass because you're pretending to be emotionally dumber than you actually are, and he's allowing this to happen.
Okay, here are some statements that I'll make, but I don't know if you'll believe me because maybe you think I'm incentivized slightly. So I've talked with Brittany a fair amount off stream. I have like a decent understanding, I think, about how her mind works. I don't think she's the type of person that would come here just looking for revenge. She could be, and I might be missing that. I just haven't had enough interactions yet, but I don't think so. That would be really boring. And if that was the case, I think she could have played this conversation out a lot differently because there are a lot of things that you said that she could harp on to make you look evil and just gone by that over and over again. And I think she was willing to make some concession where she's like, okay, given everything else you've said, like, yeah, I think, whereas she could have very easily, if she was here for revenge, like, it's very easy, especially, no offense, as a white woman, she can just sit here and be like over and over again, like, Habibi, like, I've been abused before. Like, I'm not about to step into a room with somebody like you.
That won't fly with either of our audiences.
No, but it would with hers if she was going for revenge, and she's got the woman card, so she could easily play that over and over again, and then just leave the conversation and look okay.
I guess I don't think that's what I think. Brittany is a master of the double bind. So the first double bind, the first conversation we had, you said if you scream at me, I will become aroused. Okay,
Yeah.
So you come in and you're like, oh, I had to wear underwear to talk to you. So that way, if I win the argument,
that's so embarrassing for me now because in hindsight, you weren't flirting with me, so now I look stupid, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Let me just explain. It's not, I'm not talking about that. It's a double bind because if I scream at you, then I am your sexual servant, acting out your fantasy, and you win. If I yell and dominate, then you win. And then if I don't dominate and I yell, then you also win because you win the conversation. So either way, I am subjugated.
Why was it even winning and losing, Max? I thought
Either
we were
way,
gonna have a
yeah, I don't
discussion.
even see winning and losing. A fucking level system.
Fuck, okay, wait, hold on. Well, now you make me sound dumb because I was saying there wasn't a game being played, but now you're making it sound like there is a metagame being played in the conversation. Or do you think she's just the only one playing the metagame in the conversation?
I think she's the only one doing it.
Okay.
I think you do see losers and winners everywhere you go because you got a level. You even have a literal level system to denote who the losers are who don't fucking deserve to live.
That's
now
not
this
what my level system
conversation,
is about
in this
at all.
conversation, we have a different double bind. You want me to step down from my position as having criticized you. You want me to walk it back, or
wait, what?
If I do,
I'm confused.
You want me to walk back my Let me just. This is what I think. You don't have to agree with it. It's fine.
Okay.
I think you want me to walk back or soften or take back what I said. So you put me in a new double bind. you're gonna try to reconnect with me. You're gonna ask me a bunch of questions, right? But the questions are all gonna be about spousal abuse or domestic violence that I was involved in. So my two choices are: I can either capitulate and submit to your questioning, which I did, and I can stand my ground, but then I end up looking like a psychopathic domestic abuser who basically
We're writing like
discredit me.
episode 14 for Death Note right now. Like that's what it feels like.
You discredit me by getting me just even answering questions about an embarrassing, revealing topic. However gracefully I do it, I'm still discredited somewhat in my criticism of you earlier. Or I say you're right. I shouldn't have said it that way. I should show more contrition. I take it back. You're not really asking me about me hitting my ex-wife. You're asking me about hitting you. This is all about you. You feel that I punched you in the face, and now you want me to either show regret or remorse, or you want me to be discredited as somebody who's crazy for doing so. In either way, it gets taken back. That's the double bind this time. I'm sure
I
next
feel
time
like
it'll be a
because you
different
make
one.
so many assumptions about my intentions, you don't allow for an honest conversation to occur.
I think you're doing
You
all this
won't see me.
automatically.
You
I don't
don't
think you know
see
that.
me.
I don't think you are aware that you are doing this. I don't think you see that you are doing this, but I am
Well, Max,
pretty
all I
sure
have to do
this
is let you
what's
be
happening.
yourself, and you put yourself in a weird box already. You already did it with your whole content. I
Knocked
don't have to do
myself
nothing.
out.
Right? Like you already KO'd yourself with your own content, so I don't have to do it. So I'm asking you, do you want to have a real conversation where we're people? But I'm asking you to acknowledge that
This
we're
is a real
different.
conversation. This is
But
what
we're
I think you
different
are doing
people.
as a
But
person
you never
in this
believed
conversation.
me.
No,
you never
you don't get
believed
to
me.
tell me who you are as a person. No,
Okay,
I
well
don't
then
believe
why
it.
are we talking?
I don't believe you.
That's fine. I'm bored.
This is kind of the bind that I said was earlier. So for Max, the Sherlock Holmes stuff, where if you divine a person's intentions, if you are wrong, how could you ever be proven otherwise?
You can't. It's true.
So that's a problem. Or maybe it's not.
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe
know if it's a problem. If you're right,
maybe
it's
this
not
is
a
fun.
problem.
That's true. And if you're wrong, then fuck up. You burn them and move on. Hell yeah.
That's another double bind, I guess. A double bind of my own. Okay, listen, guys. I have to go. I look forward to listening to whatever happens right after I hang up later. Thank you for having me.
I will say you were radiating a lot of Jewish energy. I'm just fucking with you. I'm sorry. I shouldn't make a joke. I'm
Well,
just
hey,
fucking. I'm
you
okay.
can
Don't even.
say
No,
it
no,
to
no,
my
say it.
face.
Okay.
Say it later. Say it to my schnoz, Destiny.
Okay. I love you.
Thanks, Max.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Brittany. Steven, I love you.
Love
I'll
you
see
both.
later.
Be careful. How do you feel
Am I
that
hanging up
conversation
now?
went? I have to leave in like I'm 5 minutes tops.
Yeah.
Okay, because Jesus
good, because I really have
Christ.
to pee. I don't know. I think I'm just, I have this theory that if you can't see a part of a person, you can't understand them. So maybe Max and I just don't see each other, and that's the dilemma.
Do you understand fundamentally what his issue is about honesty?
Yes, but I think we define honesty different. He doesn't like. I don't know how to be more honest. Except I'm also on the internet, so like I'm trying to be honest. And I understand he's trying to be really honest.
Yeah, so his feeling is that there is a whole dimension of human experience that all of us exist that we're unwilling to share with each other. And he wants to take the step further to share that experience. And then when he perceives other people as attacking him for it, he will, the place that his mind goes to is, this is an experience that I know we all share. Fuck you. And now I'm going to attack you and I'm accusing me. So he's done this
That's
with
the
Lauren.
problem.
He's done this with you. I think he's probably done it with other
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So basically it'll be something like I think with Lauren, the conversation was basically like he's willing to admit sometimes 12-year-olds are attractive or whatever the fuck he said. I don't want to misquote or something like that. And Lauren's like, okay, well, that's really weird. I don't trust you, which is probably fair of Lauren to say. But his feeling is, hold on, I know that we all have these experiences and I know that you're lying about it and you're virtue signaling for your audience to try to make it sound like you don't trust me when you're having this conversation, and I know you trust me and I hate you for that. And that's you. I think he's probably done it with other
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So basically it'll be something like I think with Lauren, the conversation was basically like, they'll share it. He will, the place that his mind goes to is, this is an experience that I know we all share. He will share that experience, willing to share with the whole.
And he's trying to be really honest. Also on the internet. internet. So like I'm trying to be honest. And I understand he's trying to be really honest.
Yeah, so his feeling is that there is a whole dimension of human experience that all of us exist that we're unwilling to share with each other. And he wants to take the step further to share that experience. And then when he perceives other people as attacking him for it, he will the place that his mind goes to is, this is an experience that I know we all share. Fuck you. And now I'm going to attack you and I'm accusing me. So he's done this
That's
with
the
Lauren.
problem.
He's done this with you. I think he's probably done it with other
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So basically it'll be something like I think with Lauren, the conversation was basically like he's willing to admit sometimes 12-year-olds are attractive or whatever the fuck he said. I don't want to misquote or something like that. And Lauren's like, okay, well, that's really weird. I don't trust you, which is probably fair of Lauren to say. But his feeling is, hold on, I know that we all have these experiences and I know that you're lying about it and you're virtue signaling for your audience to try to make it sound like you don't trust me when you're having this conversation, and I know you trust me and I hate you for that. And that's kind of the meta conversation that develops over the other conversation. And that's kind of what's happening with you two right now, basically. Yeah.
But does he understand, like, from we don't find 14-year-olds attractive, like, generally. It's very abnormal for us to think of kids
all
that
the
way.
things you could have responded to in what I just said. I
No,
don't know how.
no, Steven, listen to me. That's why I understand what Max is saying, but when
Yeah.
he says all, it makes people defensive because we're not having those shared experiences. We don't see
Sure, and
them.
that's the risk that he runs into, is that if he identifies what he believes is a shared experience, or if he identifies what he believes is an internal
Right.
feeling of somebody else and it's wrong, and we just talked about this even before you came on, I said there's like, the issue that you run into is you might nail somebody on a feeling they don't have, and then it's really hard to move you off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's all
I
I'm
mean,
saying is, like, if Max doesn't see me and I don't see him, I think that's fine. I hope we can get to a point where we can. But when he says, like, you are experiencing this, and it feels like I'm being gaslit because that's not my experience.
sure. Yeah,
That's
that's just, you both have to make a lot of effort in the conversation to see each other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think so. Otherwise, I don't have any ill will towards Max. I think he clarified his positions very clearly, and I think I understand him way better than I did before. So that's good.
Okay, well, have fun. Good luck. Thanks for hopping on to take part in the autism.
Thanks. Have a good night.
All right, have a
Bye.
good night. Jeez. You were a simp in this convo. I've got people in my YouTube chat that are really mad that I didn't attack Max more, and then I've got people in my DGG chat that are really mad that I didn't attack Brittany more. So, you know what? I'm okay. I think I'm pretty fair in these convos. I think you guys are unhinged. I'm good. I'm good with that. You don't think she was virtue signaling at all? No, if a guy says that he hit a woman in the past, I think most women are going to be a little bit uncomfortable around that guy. That's like a normal thing. Like, what do you mean? Like, that's like...
Bleib sauber.